What's the story, Morning Glory? What's the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of Married at First Sight Australia season 9, episode 1. So, I watched Married at First Sight Australia last season or 2 seasons ago. I don't remember when, because, the whole pandemic thing kind of, screwed up with the schedule. So, I loved it. Married at First Sight Australia was a hot mess. It had the kind of drama that Married at First Sight America has yet to see. It was bananas. That show was so bananas because you had all of these couples, and then you had couples cheating on each other, wives sneaking off to be with other husbands, husbands sneaking off to be with other wives. It was absolutely insane, and I loved every single minute of it. And one big difference between Married at First Sight Australia and Married at First Sight America is that every single week they have the opportunity, after they get married, of course, and they've all moved in together, they have the opportunity to decide if they want to continue with the marriage or end the marriage. And they don't have to wait for that one big decision day where everybody makes a decision. So, it seems like it has a lot of episodes, and it's a very long season, but it flies right by because, like I said, the last time I watched it, which was like 2020 or 21, or I don't remember, it was hectic. So the first thing that I noticed about this new season is they switched out one of the experts. I didn't take down their names, but the older female expert is no longer there, and they replaced her with another expert. And I don't know, she has like an American accent that's also like a mixture of a Spanish accent. I'm not quite sure exactly where she's from. So that's the first thing that I noticed. So the episode starts off with they call it a hen night and a bug night. So, which I guess in America we would call the bachelor and the bachelorette party. So the female experts, they're talking to the women, all the wives, I mean all the brides in this one room, and giving them the talk about whatever, getting married and finding your love and blah blah blah. And this is right before they have their hen night, which I guess is their bachelorette party. And then the male expert, he's talking to the guys in another room, and he says whatever he has to say about marriage and love and all of that. And then they get ready to have their bucks night, which we don't see, because with the American version we do see the bachelorette and the bachelor parties, but with this one we didn't see. And so after that, we start off with the weddings. We don't do any dress shopping. We don't do any of the, talking with the families, the experts going to everybody's house. You don't have a Dr. Pepper version digging into people's underwear drawers. There's none of that. So we get right into the weddings. And I don't know how many couples are going to have in all, but we started off with 2 weddings on the first episode. So the first wedding was with Celine and Anthony. Celine is 32, Anthony is 38 years old. They're both single parents, and that's one of the main reasons why they were matched, is that they're both single parents. Celine has a little 2-year-old boy, and Anthony has a 6-year-old girl. And he mentions that his daughter is on the spectrum. And Celine is from a Turkish family, and her own grandparents had an arranged marriage, and she's willing to have more kids with her new husband, and she's willing to be a stepmom. And I was like, wow, that fit absolutely perfectly, because she is going to be a stepmom. And then Anthony, he is a single parent. Like I said, his daughter's on the spectrum. He's tall, he's got a nice body, he has a beard, I think he has tattoos, so he's like a really good looking man. And Celine is also a very attractive woman. By day he does sales, and by night he's a pro wrestler. And I thought that was extremely interesting. So on the day of their wedding, Anthony wishes that his little girl was there with him, because him and his daughter seem to be very, very close. I don't know if he shares custody. I think he shares custody with the mother. So he's very close to his daughter, and his brother delivers a note from his daughter, and it was just the sweetest little thing. It was a really cute note, and it brought tears to his eyes, and he put it in his breast pocket so it could be close to him. And so the daughter's name, by the way, is Gabby. So Celine comes walking down the aisle, and it moved really fast. I'm trying to like remember how everything went down because it moved really fast. So she comes walking down the aisle, and and I'm assuming it's because of COVID restrictions. The reason why there was like probably only 4 people in total in attendance, which was, I think it was just their parents on both sides that was sitting in the wedding audience. So I didn't like her dress. Let me just say that straight off. I did not like her wedding dress. It had a fringe, and I'm not a big fan of fringe, especially on, you know, on any kind of like gown, a wedding gown, evening gown. I don't want to see any fringe. So I didn't care for her wedding gown. She herself looked beautiful. He looked handsome. So they exchanged, I think they had their own personal vows. I think they exchange their own personal vows. And, they do some small talk at the altar. And they both talk about how they're both parents. So they exchange their own personal vows. They exchange rings. They kiss. He kisses the bride. She's happy with him. He's happy with her. He thinks that she's beautiful. And there was like very few people in attendance, like I said. And I'm thinking it has to do a lot with COVID. So that was basically, yeah, their wedding was really short and sweet. And I don't remember if it was like that last season, if the weddings were so short and sweet like that. There's definitely chemistry between Celine and Anthony. When they were taking their photos or wedding photos, you could tell that they were very much attracted to each other. And that was really nice to see. So then they have dinner. And they're having the dinner with their parents. Both of her parents are there. Both of his parents are there. And during dinner, she ends up leaving, and then she comes back. She had changed her outfit, and she had changed her outfit. It was just like a simple top and a skirt. And I think it showed her belly, I think. And then she had like a traditional Turkish scarf wrapped around her waist, and she started doing this dance, this like Turkish belly dance, and it was absolutely amazing to watch. So she's dancing, and then he gets up and he starts dancing with her, and everybody else gets up, and it was like a really fun moment. There was like absolutely no issues or no complaints with the wedding of Celine and Anthony. Their attraction was there, the chemistry was there, the wedding was nice. When they were having the wedding dinner, the conversation flowed with the family. Absolutely, it went off without a hitch. Moving on to the second couple, which was Tamara and Brent. Now, I was a little bit confused with what Brent did for a living previously. He did something in the hospitality business. I thought he worked in a hotel or he owned a hotel or something, but I don't know. He did something in the hospitality business. I don't know if he planned events or what he did, but it was an extremely successful business. It was his business was based in Dubai, and he worked out of I don't know if he worked for a hotel or if he had his own company, and he would host these really major, extravagant events for the very, very, very wealthy people, including celebrities. And we see him in pictures with Will Smith, of all people. It's like, wow, that's interesting considering what's been going on with Mr. Smith right now. There's a picture of him and Will Smith together, just like he was living this very luxurious, wealthy life. And then COVID happened, and it brought everything to a crashing standstill, and he lost his business. He moved back to Australia, and he had to rebuild. And the pandemic hit him very hard business wise, and it also hit him very hard like personally. I think he even went through like a depression of some sort. He says he lost all motivation, he lost confidence in himself. He was just like in a really dark place when the pandemic hit, and the money stopped flowing. So his bride is going to be Tamara. I think that's how they pronounce her name. It's going to be Tamara. She's an operations manager in a real estate IT company. I think that's what they said. Her business, on the other hand, is flourishing. She's making money hand over fist. She's very successful in what she does. But she's not a very good judge of character, she says. And she says that she's never, ever been in a healthy relationship. So to me, that's a huge red flag. If you yourself have never been in a healthy relationship, is it saying something about the man you're choosing, or is it saying something about you? I don't know. So Their wedding, by the way, he's 33 and I think she's 29, I think. So when they have their wedding, she's extremely picky. Like right off the bat, we see how picky she is. She's very, very picky. She has very high expectations. Her friend tells us because she arrived at the wedding with, like, I guess it was her best friend. And her friend tells her that Tamara has very high priorities on looks and career. So she kind of comes across as pretty vain. She also she's very, it seems like she's really like she's very very focused on the superficial things of her partner. Like they have to be good looking and they have to be very ambitious and successful, and she won't settle for anything less. So she doesn't talk about the heart. She doesn't talk about, intellectual sense of humor. Is he caring? Is he sweet? None of that. Her whole thing is he has to be good looking and he has to be very ambitious career wise. And so it sort of makes sense now why she's never had a healthy relationship if that's what she thinks is the most important thing to her in a mate. Sometimes, so I kind of wondered if the experts pick people who are broken, people who have a lot of issues, and they think that if they match them with the right person, then those issues will be fixed, because that's like a recipe for disaster. When you pick someone and knowing that they have all these issues, and you think, well, if we just match her up with someone who's a hippie and lives in a commune and who doesn't care about all that material stuff, it's going to change her and make her more down to earth. I hope that that's not how the experts are matching people. But anyways, don't worry, Brent is not a hippie. He doesn't live in a commune. So, Brent talks about how his confidence was really broken when his business suffered, and he's really praying for her having very nice feet. He's got a foot fetish. He didn't really talk much. If he did, I missed it. If he talked about like what he was really looking for in his bride. Tamara comes off as very shallow, very superficial. She wants rich and good looking. But I can say this about Tamara. Her dress was gorgeous. I thought her dress was absolutely gorgeous. It was very, very simple, but it fit her so well. She's built like a model. So she looked really, really beautiful in that gown. Her dress was really pretty. Tamara says that so she walks down the aisle, and I was kind of nervous because she's expecting this really good looking guy, and I didn't know, even though Brent is handsome, I had no idea if he was good looking enough for her. So she says that when she walked down the aisle and she saw him, she was really happy. She thought that he was very, very handsome. So they're up there exchanging their vows, and then at some point, when they're still standing at the altar, she asked him, "Where do you work?" And he said, "At a bar and restaurant and club and nightclub." That's exactly what he said. And so when he said that, her face completely dropped, because she was like, oh no, they matched me with some club guy, and so he's just going to want to be partying, into the wee hours of the morning. And that's not what she wants. She wants a corporate type of person who's making a lot of money, not somebody that works in a nightclub. So she's extremely worried now. So after she gives her vows, or this was a part of her vows, first, her vows started off really nice and sweet. And then she started saying things. And I was like, how do you sell yourself with describing these, like kind of negative things about you? She says that she likes to give her, this is where she's reading her vows to him. She says that she likes to give her advice even when it's not wanted. She says she's hyperactive, she's over opinionated, she's bossy with the trace of OCD, and she says that I am like most things that are difficult but worth it in the end. So she's calling herself difficult, but it's worth it in the end. Well, who has time to wait until the end if you're that difficult and you're bossy and you're very opinionated and you give your advice when it's not asked for? Who the hell is going to want to stay long enough to see how you're so nice and sweet at the end? We don't have time for that, girl. So Tamara says that it doesn't appear that they've matched me with with what I hoped for. She says he appears to be an average kind of guy, and I don't do average. I was like, what? Like, seriously, when they found this woman, they must have known what she was like, and they were like, "Oh my God, she's gonna make great television because she's such a snob." There was very little redeeming qualities about her. So then they take wedding photos and they appear very, very stiff in their photos. They're not relaxed. They're not comfortable with each other. She's very judgy about his career. And then during the photo shoot, she says, she's asking him, what exactly do you do in a nightclub? And then he says, I don't work in a nightclub. I'm in hospitality. But at the altar, he clearly said bar, restaurant, and nightclub. But he says, I don't work in a nightclub. And he said it kind of like, where the hell did you hear that from? Well, from you, dummy. So he says, I don't work in a nightclub. I work in hospitality. I'm a hospitality specialist and I run events. Why didn't you just say that at the altar then? I was so confused. I was so confused. So after the photo shoot, they sit down to have the dinner, and it's the people that are joining them is her best friend and his best friend. So he says the photo shoot was a complete nightmare because Tamara came off very, very judgy. Tamara has to defend her preference for wanting to be with a highly successful and ambitious man because Brent's friend Levi asked her, well, what if they matched you with someone who worked in a toy store? And she was like, well, that wouldn't work for me. And, she said, I don't want to date anybody who works in a toy store or retail. That's not what I'm interested in. That's not the kind of man that I want. And so they're giving her a lot of criticism for her being that way. They call her, like she's very judgmental and narrow-minded. And it seems like she's really focused just on money and material things. And she says, you know what? That's me. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those types of jobs. If you want to work in retail for the rest of your life, if you want to work at a fast food restaurant for the rest of your life, hey, that's you. I'm not telling anyone to change who they are, but that's just not the kind of person that I want to be with. So she made a good point about that. You want what you want, and no one can change your mind about that. That's no problem. Fine. That's what you want. Fine. But just don't look down at other careers and, don't act like you can't even give this man a chance if he did do something that you didn't think was highly ambitious. So if he did work at a pet store, a toy store, a retail shop, don't be so quick to throw in the towel and be like, oh, I'm just going to write you off because I don't. Anyways, so yeah, it's okay if that's what you like, but just don't look down on other types of profession because some people, they may really enjoy those type of jobs. That might be the only kind of job that they can get, so let's stop with this air of superiority and entitlement. So Brett's friend does not see it for Tamara at all. He does not think that Tamara is a good match for his friend. Brett himself says that Tamara is spoiled and entitled, and he says that we're in for a bit of a rocky road. So then, while they're eating dinner, Tamara criticizes how he eats his dinner, like how he was holding his fork and knife. So she told him, you don't hold your fork in your right hand. You have to hold it in your left hand because that's where your fork was placed. So your fork stays in your left hand. And he was like, excuse me? And she's like, yeah, that's how you eat. That's the way you're supposed to eat. And so in her confessional, she was like, he just looked like a Neanderthal holding the fork with his right hand and just like stabbing at his food. And she was like, she can't deal with that. And so he thinks it's absolutely ridiculous. And so he's like, I'm going to eat the way I want to eat. No one's going to tell me how to hold my fork. And so Brent says that Tamara is one-sided and narrow-minded, and at some point Brent and his friend Levi, they step away from the table, and then Tamara's friend says that she tells Tamara he's kind of short, isn't he? He's like a short man, and Tamara agrees that he is on the short side. And then Brent tells his friend that they'll either meet halfway, him and Tamara, or things are not going to go right at all. So he's not going to allow anyone to tell him, how to eat his dinner, how to hold his fork. I already said that before. And then Tamara says that she says that he will learn very quickly that I always wear the pants in the relationship. Now, Brent seems kind of like, he likes to take control as well. So he sees her as I'll get to that later. So then the producer asks Tamara, what do you think of Brent? And she says that she's pleased. And she also says that the more that I get to know him, the more that I see why we've been matched. Then comes a whole issue with the knife. So they're standing at the wedding cake, and I guess he handed her the knife and she's trying to cut the cake and the knife won't cut the cake. And they're trying together, mind you, both of them are trying to cut this cake and it's just not cutting. And I'm thinking, is it even a real cake? Maybe it's just a prop. So then they figure out, or she figures out, that she was trying to cut the cake from the dull side of the knife instead of the sharp side. So she turns the knife over and then she's able to cut the cake. And then she blames him for it. She says, "You handed me the knife wrong. You handed it to me upside down. That's why we couldn't cut the cake." And he was like, "I did not hand it to you upside down. You couldn't cut the cake because you don't know how to cut the cake or you don't know how to hold a knife." So they're blaming each other about this knife thing. And this goes on and on and on and on and on. And they think it's really cute and funny, but it's not. This is a huge red flag. I don't care what anybody says. That is a huge red flag. So then it comes time for their first dance together. And as they're dancing, they're still arguing about this damn knife. And she tells him, "I want you to apologize for handing the knife to me wrong because it was your fault that I couldn't cut the cake." And he was like, "I'm not going to apologize because I didn't do anything wrong. You just don't know how to hold a knife or you don't know how to cut the cake. And I'm not going to apologize." And so she says to him something like, "Oh, so you're one of those people. You just don't like apologizing when you've done something wrong." And she's like, "I'm expecting you to apologize." And he's like, "I'm not going to apologize." And so you can tell, I felt like, and I could be wrong, but I felt like this was really aggravating her. She tried to keep it light, she would kind of giggle here and there and she would kind of like play it off like they're just trying to be funny. But I kind of felt like she was perturbed because she seems like the kind of person where and she did mention this at the dinner table, that she's always right. She goes, "Most of the time I'm right. And you have to listen to me because I'm always right. I'm rarely wrong." And Brent, that's a red flag, sweetheart. That is a huge red flag. So while they're trying to dance, he's trying to hold her and dance with her. She's still going on and on and on about this damn knife. And I'm like, girl, let it go. If he's not going to apologize, he's not going to apologize. If you know in your heart that you were holding the knife correctly or that he handed it to you wrong, and you know that in your heart, let that be enough to give you peace and stop arguing about the knife, please, and demanding an apology from him. So he sees her at the end of the episode. He kind of he said that he was happy with the choice that the experts made for him. He was happy with her, and he kind of sees her as a challenge. I don't know if he's going to try to tame her, and calm her down, or what he thinks is going to be happening. But yeah, that's not going to happen with this woman. This is a grown woman set in her ways, and I just don't see her changing. But we'll have to wait and see. So that's the first episode of Married at First Sight Australia. I thought it was extremely interesting. So yeah, that was a good episode. If you made it this far in my review, thank you so much. I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. I really do, because you decided to spend all of this time with me. And I thank you for that. Please don't forget to rate the video to let me know how it went, how I did. Thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever you think is appropriate. And also don't forget to subscribe. And I will talk to you later. Bye.